Hi. In 1963, my grandfather went to bed. The next morning, he didn't wake up. He had had a widowmaker heart attack and left my grandmother a widow for more than 20 years. In 1984, my grandmother passed 9 days before my father did. My father had had heart attacks since he was 36 years old. And ultimately, a heart attack is what took him out, along with cancer, in 1984. 1 month ago, on December 15th, 2025, I woke up more dead than alive. Like my grandfather, I had, or was in the middle of actually, having a widowmaker heart attack. Today's 1 month later. And I can tell you that it has been quite the journey. For months, possibly years even, I misunderstood the symptoms of afibrillation. I misunderstood that I was having heart attacks. I had a 99% blockage in my lateral anterior descending artery. That's the one the doctors call the widowmaker. Because the doctor told me that if I had hesitated at all getting into the emergency room, I would have died. He said, "You got here just in time." They put a stent in a tiny, tiny little spot. I can still barely see it. There's a little dot right there in my wrist. And they went up through my wrist into my heart. They went up my arm, across my shoulder, collarbone, and then into my heart with a little balloon that they used to push the plaque and blood clots out of the way. Then they put a stent in. And the way it was explained to me was a stent is similar to the spring, about the size of the spring in a pen, an ink pen. Excuse me, it is opened and left there, and then the balloon is pulled out along with the catheter. In the last month, I have been dealing with figuring out which medications actually work for me and which ones I don't need, or I need smaller doses. The doctor and I, my cardiologist and I, have been working very closely to make sure that I keep my blood pressure stable, not just down. It has to be stable. It has to stay within a range. And in the last 2 or 3 days, I've been getting there. I feel much more alert, much more alive. Still not as strong as I'd like to be. I still have a way to go. I start cardio rehab in a couple of weeks. I see my doctor again in a couple of weeks. Now, I think they're going to do an EKG, but I'm not sure. So we'll see. But I wanted to take just a moment on the month anniversary of my major heart attack to share with you what my symptoms were so that you can save yourself some agony and perhaps a trip to the emergency room. What they show on television might happen from time to time. But that is not what happened to me. I don't recall ever clutching my chest in agony, and I never felt any heartburn. I felt heartburn after the stent was put in and they started feeding me hospital food and medication. In fact, I got very sick at one point in the hospital, and I told them I was ill, and I barely had time to get something to throw up in. That was my body getting accustomed to brand new chemicals. Here's what I endured for a long time. I know that probably 2 years ago, maybe 3, I started experiencing pain in both shoulders. Now, at that time, I was rather active in my garden. I was constantly pulling weeds. Didn't think twice about it. Shoulder pain, no big deal. That's from overexertion, right? Wrong. I used ice. I used NSAIDs, Motrin, Aleve. Those are things I can no longer take because of the medicine I'm on. I started having really severe shoulder pain only in my right shoulder, about 6 months ago. It started hurting occasionally. Then about 2 months ago, prior to my heart attack, it was hurting every day, sometimes all day long. I actually had bought a special thing. Curtis said that I looked like a football player if I wore both of the things on my shoulders. But it fit right over my shoulder, and I wore it kind of like a sling, but I could put ice in it. And as long as the ice was cold, I could wear it. I was taking over-the-counter THC and copious amounts of Motrin. It was the only thing that seemed to help. And sleeping a lot. Oh, did I sleep? I was the queen of naps. But sometimes the pain would go, it was always right here in the front portion of my shoulder, the size of a quarter maybe. But then it would go up and would go across this way, and it would dig into my collarbone, and then it would go straight up, just straight up to my earlobe and stop. That was what it did. I just moved the ice pack around. I didn't worry about it. I did what I did, and I pushed through. I continued to cook and clean and make beds and do laundry and sweep the floors and be a housewife. I continued to write. I continued to go to events to sell my books. I didn't see any need to stop. A little pain, take a pill. More pain, put some ice on it. Even more pain, take a nap. This went on, like I said, for several months, and it started getting increasingly worse. On December 15th, 2025, I woke up and I looked at the clock and I saw that it was 6:30. I was more dead than alive at that point. Breathing was extremely hard. The pain had moved it wasn't in my shoulder that morning. I woke up, the pain was directly between my two breasts, right on my sternum. But it was no more than a pinch. Literally, it was the tiniest little pinch, but it was a pinch that kept on going. It was very rhythmic, and it would just keep pinching and pinching and pinching. And then I got dizzy. and I got nauseated. I never threw up, but I just felt sick to my stomach. And I don't know if there's a difference between dizzy and lightheaded, but I felt like I was dealing with both. Then, on top of the pinch, this little tiny nagging pinch, just a little pinch, pinch, pinch. It was pinching every time my heart was trying to beat. Every time the blood was trying to flow, it pinched. And I was breathing, gasping for air, struggling to breathe. That's what woke my husband up, was my breath, because it was so labored and loud and hard. And he told me, "Get dressed, I'm taking you to the hospital." Well, I managed to get my pajama pants off, but I couldn't manage to put any other pants on. My arms felt like lead weights. They were just at my side. I couldn't lift them. And then when I did lift them, I could not coordinate my hands and my feet. It was like my hands would go this way, my feet would go this way, and it was like just herky-jerky. My feet must have weighed 5,000 pounds because I could not lift them. I had zero muscle control, less muscle coordination. And so Curtis came over and he helped me get dressed just like you would help a baby. He ran the pants through, made one hole and said, "Stick your foot in here." I couldn't stick my foot in. He had to lift my foot to put my pants on. He told me, "Lie back down. I'm calling an ambulance." I lost the next 6 hours. I had 3 moments of clarity, and that was it. I remember the air when I remember feeling like I was in a hammock, and that was when the EMTs, there were 7 of them in my bedroom, they lifted me up with the sheet on my bed and put me on the gurney. That sheet is long gone. I never recovered it. The air hit me early that morning, and another symptom that morning, I was awash in sweat, just covered in sweat, like the worst hot flash from years ago. Anyway, when they rolled me outside, I felt this cool air, and I thought, "Oh, this feels so good." I heard one of the EMTs calling my name over and over. Finally, I was able to pry my eyes open, and I looked up and I saw part of the emergency room sign at the hospital. I was swiftly admitted into the cath lab at Cape Canaveral, and they put a stent in. I woke up, like I said, 6 hours later in ICU with no recollection other than those 3 moments. It was too devastating for me to be upset or scared. I know it was terrifying for Curtis, but he told me that all the way following the ambulance, he kept praying, and he said, "She can't die. We have unfinished business." And when he met the chaplain in the hospital, he told the chaplain, he said, "I don't feel she's going to die. She's going to be fine." And I am going to be fine. Sometimes if I talk too much, I have to stop and catch my breath. I'm trying very hard to be more mindful of my breath, trying to be more deliberate with my speech so that I'm not just wasting words. And anybody who knows me knows that I love to talk, and I could find any number of things to talk about. Now that I've gotten my medication more or less straightened out, my blood pressure is more regulated. I'm still taking it very slowly, not doing any major events, not going any major places. When I do, it is an event. I remember the first time Curtis and I walked out of the house a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember where we went, but we were going to my doctor, going to my cardiologist. I had to hold on to him like a life jacket just to walk from the door to the car, maybe 20 feet. Now I'm doing much better. Every day I'm getting stronger, and every day I'm able to do more. But if I do too much, then I'm back down the next day. So I'm trying to find that happy medium between how much I can do and how much I should do. And I know that once I start cardio rehab, they'll help me figure some of this out. But I just wanted to take a moment today on the 1-month anniversary of my heart attack and share with you that what you see in the movies is not what happens in real life. Very seldom. Sure, it might happen to some people. It didn't happen to me. So especially ladies, if you're having shoulder pain and you don't have any physical reason, if you haven't been overexerting your shoulders, your arms, and even if you have, don't be stubborn. Don't be stupid like I was. Go find you a doctor. I've had the worst luck in Brevard County, Florida, finding a primary care physician. I've used 4 or 5. 4 I know from the same office building. Those doctors just haven't been working for me. They get up and leave the practice. They move out of the country. The last one, there was I'm going to call it a clerical error. I don't know what else to call it. The hospital liaison made the appointment for me and told me that it was at 11:30 on a certain day. I show up in plenty of time, and I was weak. I was still dealing with the low blood pressure before we started fixing and tweaking the medication. And I was going to him, hopefully to get him to help me with the medication. The woman told Curtis that my appointment had been 10 minutes earlier than we arrived, and for us to have a seat. So we did. And we waited 15 to 20 minutes before she called him back up and told him that because we were late, we would have to reschedule. And Curtis tried to explain that we weren't late, but she wasn't having it. So we ended up going to the ER that day so that we could get some idea of how to handle my medication. So here I am, a month later, 2 ER trips later, 1 trip to the cardiologist, a trip to a doctor who apparently doesn't understand the Hippocratic Oath. And I'm doing what I've always done. I'm eating heart healthy. I don't eat fried foods. I very seldom eat breaded foods. I try to stay away from all the processed food. I'm eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. More chicken than beef. Eating nuts for snacks. Light, fat, lightweight, whatever you call it, yogurts. and just doing the best I can to eat healthy and move when I'm able. I haven't started any weight training yet because I just haven't had the energy. So, I want to thank you for listening and encourage you and urge you not to take your body for granted, not to think it'll get better. Don't waste your life waiting to get the help you need. I appreciate everybody who has prayed for me, who has sent me healing energy, my friends who have sent me Reiki, my friends who have taken me grocery shopping since Curtis went back to work, my neighbors who have been on standby in case I needed them. You guys just are the most amazing people in the world, and I'm so glad to call you my friends. And if I haven't met you yet, you're still my friends. I don't meet strangers. I never have. Anyway, that's my tale for today, and I hope to be able to create another video and tell you more as we progress with the healing of my heart. Bye-bye.